Good afternoon. Here we are now at Psalm 38. Um, it's a beautiful psalm, a penitential psalm, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to read it through. Psalm 38. Okay, so as I said at the outset, this is a penitential psalm of David, and it focuses on David's sinfulness now and the consequences of that sinfulness. It's important to say that not all our troubles come as a consequence of our sin. Other things happen and that causes us suffering, things beyond our control. But this psalm in particular deals with the consequences of our own sin and how we might approach that, having recognized our culpability in the suffering that's going on around us and to us. So when we sin and realize that we have sinned, there's generally three responses, and these responses are beautifully laid out for us in this psalm. So the first thing we can do, and David does, is we can focus on the pain of sin and start feeling sorry for ourselves. So verses 1 to 8 deal beautifully with that. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath, for your arrows have sunk into me, and your hand has come down on me. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There's no health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities have gone over my head like a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. And so on it goes. In verse 8, I am feeble and crushed. I groan because of the tumult of my heart. And there's a sense in which David understands that he has been sinful, but what he does is he feels sorry for himself. He expresses his pain. And I wonder how many times, I know certainly sometimes I know I have sinned, and my first reaction is to feel sorry for myself and to internalize it so much that I actually increase the pain that I have been suffering and do so needlessly. So that could be our first reaction. Our first reaction to sin, as is David's, is we focus on the pain of sin and we start feeling sorry for ourselves. Another reaction is that we focus on others. Indeed, we blame others and we start feeling lonely. So it's a kind of, woe is me, I'm in this situation, I'm all alone, and it's other people's faults, and we project our pain outwards rather than taking responsibility for it. So we see that for David in verses 9 to 14, where he goes, O Lord, all my longing is before you, my sighing is not hidden from you. Verse 11, my friends and companions stand aloof from my plague, and my nearest of kin stand far off. This sense of, oh, woe is me, I'm all alone in this. I'm all alone in this, and others are ganging up around me. You see that in verse 12. Those who seek my life lay their snares. Those who seek my hurt speak of ruin and meditate treachery all day long. Oh Lord, all this stuff that's happening to me now, my enemies are seeking to capitalize on it, to maximize my distress. Oh my goodness, this is just so many other people's faults, and I'm all alone in this, with this problem and in this pain. Or finally, our third option when we understand we have sinned is that we focus on the Lord and experience his forgiveness. And we see this beautifully in verses 15 to 22, which I'll read for you now. But for you, O Lord, do I wait. It is you, O Lord my God, who will answer. For I said, only let them not rejoice over me who boast against me when my foot slips. For I am ready to fall, and my pain is ever before me. I confess my iniquity. I am sorry for my sin. But my foes are vigorous, they are mighty, and many are those who hate me wrongfully. Those who render me evil for good accuse me because I follow after good. Do not forsake me, O Lord, O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Eventually, after he has internalized it and felt sorry for himself, after he has sought to blame others, he gets round to confessing his sinfulness before God. He focuses on God and God's available help rather than on others or internally on himself. So verse 18, I confess my iniquity. I am sorry for my sin. Then he goes on to claim what he knows is assured. Do not forsake me, verse 21, do not forsake me, O Lord, O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. See, David knows that the Lord is his Savior. David knows that the Lord is wholly available. And David has, in the course of his woes, in the course of his pain, in the course of his suffering, in the course of everything that's been going on with him and around him, realizes that he needs to confess his sinfulness, and he does so. What's more, he does it to a Lord whom he knows will forgive him. And I think often in our times of trial and temptation, we process it in a way in which we place God at a distance rather than drawing God closer to us and us drawing closer to God. We take our time in getting to the point that David got to where he knew he had to confess his sin. But he also knew that God was available to save him. Sometimes I think if we could short circuit the things that we do as human beings and go straight to the point in which we ask God to forgive us, it could save us an awful lot of heartache. But in our natural inclination as sinful men and women is to try and process this in a way in which we are not to blame. We're slow to ask for forgiveness. We're slow to admit our own fault and culpability in our own pain. I think that's true in all our lives, and in many situations. You might want to take a moment just to pause now and reflect on maybe one of your own situations where you know that your sinfulness caused your pain. God didn't cause it. God didn't bring it down upon you. You did. But don't be like David, where you seek to internalize it and feel sorry for yourself, or you seek to externalize it and blame others. Be eventually like David, who knew that he had to ask for forgiveness. I confess my iniquity. I am sorry for my sin. Verse 22 then, make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. And isn't it marvelous that we have a Savior who hears the sincerity of our being sorry and comes rushing in and saves us. Amen.